Welcome back to the MLS Net Boys podcast. I am here with Jacob. I am here with producer Isaac. After a thrilling day yesterday of conference finals, how are you doing, Jacob?
A lot better than anybody in Cincinnati, Ohio.
We were talking about that. You texted us, and then we were also talking about it yesterday and today as well. How horrible that must feel to be a Cincy fan right now.
Not to rub it in, but like literally the worst way I can picture a season ending.
Do you think that's worse, or would it be worse if you just got blown out like 5-0 at home in the playoffs?
I mean, that would be, I guess, technically worse, but...
Or would it be worse to make it to MLS Cup, tie it up in the last minute, go to stoppage time, go to penalties, and then have your club legend miss a penalty and then lose the cup?
Talking Timbers or Philly? I mean, I think for me that was worse what Cincinnati did, because at least Portland made it to the cup, they made it to the big stage, you know, and they weren't playing like a direct rival, right? This was to host MLS Cup, the winner. Pretty terrible.
Yeah, that has to be heartbreaking as a Cincy fan, as well as a Houston fan. Like, the Houston game seemed to be pretty heartbreaking.
It was pretty one-sided in that game. I will say in that one, Houston being eliminated, when I looked at their Twitter account, when I looked at their X account afterwards, all their fans were like, you know, I'm proud of this team, proud of Ben Olsen. Like, they turned it around. Nobody believed in us. We didn't believe in this team and this hire, and we made it, like, really far. They hold their heads high, even though they disappointed. Whereas Cincy,
I don't know. I mean, I think it's tough because they won Supporter Shield. So I guess we should disclose. I mean, for anybody who may not have watched or doesn't know the results, LAFC won at home against Houston 2-0. Cincinnati loses 3-2 to Columbus in extra time. But the point I was going to make is if you were to ask a Cincinnati fan 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, if they would be content being in this position, having won Supporter Shield and then losing in the conference finals, they'd probably like snatch at any opportunity of being near that.
totally. It's the way they lost. It's not that they lost,
Yeah.
I guess. It's the way it happened. 2-0 up against your big rivals at home with 15 minutes left after you scored one that didn't count to make it 3-0, had a golden chance to make it 3-0 later on.
But, I mean, when you look across the field and you see Christian Ramirez warming up, you already know it's over. You know the game's over.
Apparently, man.
That guy has been lights out for Columbus. I mean, he had a hot streak earlier in the season, got dropped from the starting lineup. Kind of just seems like a humble guy who knows his role. Whenever he's questioned about it, he just kind of gives the same answer that almost seems like it's coming straight from the coaching staff. Like, he just says, he's like, you know, I have a different skill set than some of these guys. I bring something different to this team. And when I get out there, like, it's my opportunity to do that. And you love to see that. Like, not even just as a Columbus fan, but like a fan of the league. See a guy who's just willing to put in work and be a role player for a team like this.
You insinuating that you're a Columbus fan here?
I don't know, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm wearing a Colorado hat right now.
2 weeks in a row. Respect. Yeah, I don't know. So Columbus Crew goes on. They're hosting MLS Cup, and we kind of talked about this before, but in the long scheme of things, after they lose MLS Cup 2015, they go through that Save the Crew movement. Looks like their team's going to be moved. They win MLS Cup in 2020, hosting it, and now they get another chance to host MLS Cup. And that's 3 MLS Cups hosted since 2015. That's pretty crazy. And they get the All-Star game next year.
Columbus is the soccer epicenter of the U.S. This is it, man. Like, this is what soccer in the U.S. means. And we talked about it last week, but I just love that a market like this is where soccer is like really thriving, and I don't know. I mean, it's just like you said, like the fact that the club almost left the city not too long ago, a few years ago, and then they win the cup. I don't know what 4 years ago now, 3 years ago,
2020. Yep.
And now to do have another appearance, it's an amazing story for them. I love it.
And this one's in another thing, their brand new stadium that they opened as well. So another thing, one thing, I'm going to turn this down off the positive stretch here. That stupid jackhammer celebration thing they do when they score a goal, that's going to be at the MLS Cup.
Heck yeah, dude. You don't think anybody in Columbus was saying that about that stupid log cutting thing they do?
That makes sense, though.
How does the jackhammer not make sense?
Dude, even Crew fans kind of trash on.
It's a blue-collar team.
Dude, you look at any soccer game for that matter, you don't see a bunch of burly men.
You look at a Columbus Crew, you look at the city of Columbus, and you just think that's a blue-collar, a lot of construction going on there. That's what Columbus screams to me. Are there any other professional sports teams in Columbus?
There's a hockey team, the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Other than that, though, soccer.
Any other
soccer city right there?
I mean, sort of, yeah. I mean, they got Ohio State, like the college football, college basketball.
That's not professional sports.
Biggest nearby thing. Ohio has a lot of pro sports teams, though. Actually, they got Cleveland Cavaliers, Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati.
You're getting rid of my point I was about to make, dude. Columbus is a soccer city. Do they have a claim to being Soccer City, USA?
No, because that's an arbitrary term. Even though Portland says they're it, sure. I like the fact that they say that, and there's some history that I think kind of backs that up, but St. Louis claims that. Kansas City claimed that when they were the national team training center. Atlanta's probably going to claim that now.
What if you were to say one city other than Portland is Soccer City, USA? What city are you picking?
I think for the history, St. Louis had a decent. I think now that they have an MLS squad, they have a pretty decent argument for it. I think Kansas City was probably the next closest. Missouri, all these Midwest action. Probably Kansas City, I would have said. Because they were the U.S. soccer, official, training facility or whatever it was.
I could see that. Whenever I look it up, it just only gives me Timbers stuff, but that's just because of how Google works.
I will say, this isn't mean. Crew has a great atmosphere in crowds now, the last 5, 6, 7 years. However, right around a little bit before the Save the Crew movement, like 2013, 2012, I want to say, it was pretty dead at MAPFRE Stadium. I'm not going to lie. Right? And, yeah, I will say, saying your Soccer City, USA, like Portland, their reasoning behind it was they had a lot of history. They had the NASL team, Portland Timbers, over 50 years almost of soccer history. And they support in high numbers their women's team and college soccer teams. So
there's been good support in Portland for soccer since the inception of the team.
Right. Across multiple different teams, not just their one team, right?
Yeah.
So I think that definitely factors in too.
Congratulations. We officially made the MLS Cup podcast about the Portland
we
Timbers.
We won something.
We've done it yet again. We have shifted the topic of conversation to the Portland Timbers.
You baited me there, though. You knew I was going to end up there.
But I don't know. Should we kind of dive into these games a little bit more? Or do you think our brief 5 minutes was enough?
Because I want to talk about the Timbers posted on Instagram. Phil Neville
going to the academy?
I'm just kidding.
I don't know. I kind of want to discuss these games a little bit more. Just a little bit more in depth. Cincinnati, Columbus. We talked this up as being a shootout. I predicted a 3-2 Columbus win. Jacob predicted 3-2 Cincinnati. And all the way up until the 115th minute, it was right on the verge. It could have been either of us was going to be right. Turns out Columbus snags another goal. Christian Ramirez comes up big. But this game had everything. There was so much intensity. You could feel it from the fans, the crowd. Seems like both sets of players kind of knew what was at stake, not only just, a berth to MLS Cup, but for the rivalry. It seemed like they were all pretty bought in. The intensity was really there.
It's a night that's going to be remembered forever in that rivalry, right? Yeah. And just gut-wrenching stuff. You were spot on. You said 3-2 Columbus. Well done. Where do you think, after a game like this, you mentioned in the last podcast you think this is the stretch where Ohio takes over and makes a lot of cups and are competing for things. Where do you put this rivalry, Cincinnati-Columbus, in the sphere? And I don't want to talk about the other ones in depth because we're going to rave about our own team, but just ranking-wise.
Well, we don't have to rave about it because it's almost a fact. Everybody kind of says Cascadia. I mean, even other people around the league acknowledge Cascadia is probably the top rivalry. I think where you get people who aren't saying that is MLS shills.
I feel like I see a lot of people say El Tráfico is the number one.
Well,
now, which I disagree.
Those are people that work for MLS or live in LA who, there's more money in that rivalry than there is in the Timbers-Seattle rivalry. So I would say Timbers-Seattle is probably number one. In terms of quality, I would put the Hell is Real derby probably number 2 right now. I don't know if the atmosphere is quite there as the same as El Tráfico, but
it felt pretty close.
It seemed pretty close, and it's been intense all season between them. And then when you look at the quality of both teams, that I think puts them ahead of El Tráfico.
Do you think after one good competitive season between the two, I'm going to pump the brakes on it a little bit.
It was competitive last season as well.
Competitive, but I don't even know if the Crew made the playoffs last year, did they? I don't think they did.
No, they didn't.
So for me, all right, Cascadia, number 1. Number 2, I'm going Toronto, Montreal.
That's a crime.
That is
a crime. Those are both just
this
You're
season,
talking about
this
competitive.
Season,
both those teams are crap.
I'm not talking about I'm ranking the rivalry. So at this current time, yes, the Cincinnati Columbus one is ahead in terms of quality, but MLS Cup 2016, I know that's going almost a decade back now, but they were in the same spot. Toronto, Montreal fighting to play MLS Cup. And for me, that just shows you how quickly the parity can take over in MLS. But still, when those two teams play now, and especially since the fact that they have the Canadian Championship, which is pretty much whatever MLS Canadian team wants to win it, they're always playing each other in these big games still, even though they're garbage teams now. So for me,
I don't know. I think I wouldn't put them up there. I think another one that has a shout, even though it's brand new this year, is the Barbecue, SKC in St. Louis.
See, to me, that's crazy.
Not just because of MLS, but when you look at the cities have had a rivalry for a long, long time. So when you look at sports in those cities, I know they've had a huge baseball rivalry. So that kind of cuts a lot deeper and already gives you a hatred. Like when they get the new kid on the block, St. Louis, there's already a hatred between these two cities.
I completely agree with that point, and that's why I put Toronto, Montreal up there, because they have that as well. They're two cities that hate each other. Same with Portland, Seattle. It stretches across sports.
Because of their hockey teams or something?
Hockey used to be baseball up there.
I can't give it to a Canadian team.
I
Canadian rivalry.
This is the first.
Those two teams are mostly irrelevant in the terms of MLS contenders. Montreal's run pretty horribly. Toronto's going down that route of just being obscure.
But for a while, 7-8 years, Toronto was top tier team in MLS. So I can't give it to Columbus or in Cincinnati or SKC St. Louis. I'll go through my top 5 and you can give me yours and we can do some more conjecture.
All right.
So number 1, Portland versus Seattle for me. Number 2, Toronto versus Montreal.
You almost said the right answer there.
I didn't. Number 3, I think El Tráfico, LAFC, LA Galaxy. I think that's gone pretty up there. And number 5, that's a tricky one.
Wait, you just go number 3 to number 5?
Oh, number 4. See, I'm all over the place now. I'd be okay. I don't know. I'd be okay giving the number 4 spot this rivalry because they have played each other about 6-7 years since he's been in Open Cup. They actually played in the Open Cup before since he was in MLS. And then number 5, I would go New York Red Bulls versus DC. Not even going to put the Hudson River Derby.
I was
going
to say, if you said Hudson River, I would put Hudson River as the worst rivalry in MLS.
Rocky Mountain Cup?
That one's better.
Salt Lake is dumb. I mean, if you're talking about crap teams.
I think the Rocky Mountain Cup, personally, where I'm coming from as a fan, I appreciate that more than these two mega corporation teams that fight over the fact that you're in New York City. Yeah, well, we've been here longer. Like, just stupid. Like, both those teams just argue about the stupidest stuff.
The funny,
you play in a baseball stadium. Well, we're actually in the city. It's like,
but then so that lost all of its flair to me around the same point when New York City started having to play home games in New York Red Bull Stadium.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The funny thing to me about all of this rivalry talk, you've got the Cascadia rivalry, Timbers in Seattle, and then their little brother, Vancouver. Then you've got Toronto, Montreal, and then they have their little Canadian brother, Vancouver.
Vancouver needs a real rival.
They don't really have a rival.
Because it seems like Vancouver is like the friendly one in every rivalry that they're in.
Which is funny because they're kind of, by pure proximity, they're closer to Seattle, actually.
And seems like Timbers are pretty friendly with Vancouver. Seattle's pretty friendly with Vancouver. Like, even in the chants that they sing in the stadium, it's always like, even when you're, like, Timbers are playing against Vancouver, we're doing chants, like, talking crap about Seattle. And just, like, kind of throw, like, Vancouver in there a little bit, which I think is hilarious. But
let's hear your top 5.
Cascadia for sure. If we're going right now off, it's tough because I think Cascadia has declined a lot, primarily due to the Timbers incompetence. Like the fact that we don't make playoffs devalues our rivalry.
See, I don't think so personally. For me, when you watch the game, there's some buzz out of it, but I don't think it's due to the teams being crappy.
I don't know. So it depends how you're ranking it, because it seems like you're ranking it based purely off just the spectacle of the rivalry game, and that's it, and just how the fans
multiple factors
show up. Because if I'm more so ranking it based off the strength of the team, like right now, currently this year, the strength of both teams, and the importance of those rivalry matches. Like, there's off-field importance, there's bragging rights. But when you look at Seattle and Timbers play each other, their importance, like in the table when they play each other, is a lot less important than like Cincy and Columbus are fighting for top spots in the East.
Right. But once again, this is only one season of that, so it's hard.
That's why I'm saying, like, just currently this 1 year.
All right. So then, if it's purely based off that, then you kind of just look at the table, right, and just look down the list.
Yeah, you could, but there's also two teams. You know, you could have teams that are fighting it out at the bottom of the table. More importance there as well. I don't know. I mean, I would put Cascadia top purely out of being a Timbers fan, being a lot more, involved in that rivalry, having seen it firsthand. Cincy Columbus, it feels like it's pretty close. The fan culture is there. I think Cincinnati, it almost feels like they've just been beaten up on for like the little brother that just gets like the crap beat out of him for 3 years and then finally is like big enough to fight back. Kind of feels like that. Feels like there's a real like kind of hatred between these two teams now, especially after last night. Third, I think I would put El Tráfico. There's like a real kind of just hooligan energy about that whole thing, where it seems like there might be like a
fist fight.
Yeah, it seems like a rivalry similar to like Boca Juniors and River Plate. Like somebody's gonna get killed outside the stadium or something like that. Like cars are getting flipped over. Fourth, I don't know. I kind of almost want to go with. I have a soft spot for the Cali Classico, even though it doesn't really have anything to it anymore.
I was gonna put that one in there. Honestly,
there's just a good history with it.
And the fans really do hate each other, honestly.
And that's why I don't know. When you said Red Bulls DC, I feel like there isn't that same hatred as like a Cali Classico, like San Jose and LA Galaxy. I feel like there's some real disdain.
I was gonna put that one in there. Yeah, I spaced it.
And then
there was another one I missed too. I was gonna put in.
There's another one. There's two that I'm kind of fighting with. One that actually has some history. You got to go down to Copa Tejas. You got to go down to Texas. I feel like Dallas Houston is a good rivalry. Austin's kind of their Vancouver. And then so that would be my 5. I would go Cali Classico at 4, and then I go Dallas Houston at 5.
So you got
I don't know because
Portland, Seattle, you said, then Columbus, Cincy.
Yeah.
At 2, at 3, El Tráfico. 4, Cali Classico, San Jose, LA Galaxy, then 5, Dallas, Houston.
I think, but I think I'm gonna dump them. I'm gonna go the barbecue. I think SKC
Really?
St. Louis. The games they had were insane this year. The fans turned up. There's already a hatred between those cities. And just the intensity. And it seemed like the players really bought in. Like, you saw a lot of just, like, players, like, chirping at each other, like, late tackles. Just, it was a hard-fought game every time they played each other.
That's true, but that's just how St. Louis plays when they just are annoying.
Yeah, true, but I don't know. I love that. I think another one that is building up that's going to be interesting to see in the next couple years is Miami and Orlando.
I agree.
Miami just pumping so much money into this team, and then Orlando kind of
building their squad,
entering like a dominance like period in MLS. Like, they're kind of on par with a Columbus right now. Like, really, really solid, well built team.
I was actually gonna say the one I was gonna put in. I went number 1 Portland, Seattle, number 2 El Tráfico, number 2 Toronto, Montreal, number 3 El Tráfico, number 4 I said the Columbus, Cincy. Number 5, I'm going to put Columbus, Cincy at number 5. And at number 4, I'm going Atlanta, Orlando. Those two teams hate each other. And that one was cool because it wasn't really a forced one. At first, they were just the two teams in the South, right? And now you've got Miami, which is more of a natural rival for Orlando. And you've got Nashville and Charlotte, which feel like more natural rivals for Atlanta. Yet, these two teams hate each other. Josef Martinez is an absolute villain of that rivalry.
Yeah.
And it really happened kind of naturally, right? Atlanta dominated them from the get-go, which is funny because Orlando was in the league 2 years earlier, and now it's kind of leveled out a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a solid poll.
What's your favorite, like, rivalry that's not an official rivalry, if that makes sense? Like, two teams that aren't really geographical, but there's some hatred.
SKC and RSL.
I was just going to say that. For an OG, not even OG, but like 2010s MLS fan.
Those were already like, those are some high-stake games whenever they played each other.
SKC Houston back in the day, and even this year, honestly.
Yeah, I always loved RSL SKC. It was fun. One thing I've really loved about, like, classic MLS matchups is when you have two just solid goalkeepers on both sides. Like, you had Nick Raimondo and Tim Mealy on the other end, and just watching
Between
like these
the
teams like go to battle, and just I don't know, I always loved watching that because you know you're gonna see an amazing game-changing save on both sides. That if they had a different goalie, the game might have been put out of reach. It may have completely changed the outcome. I always loved watching those games. Those are really fun.
Seattle LAFC recently. They've met 3 times in the 6 years LAFC's been in the league in the playoffs. So that's kind of crazy.
Good matchups. That's been good.
New York City FC and Philadelphia had a little bit of a thing going. Philly and LAFC.
Yeah. If you could create a rivalry between two teams that have no animosity for each other, but if you could like create it and name it or anything, like what would you pick? I think there's an obvious one.
You think so? I want to
Yeah.
hear yours first.
Go the Disney Derby. Go Orlando and LA.
See, I was
You
thinking
got Disney World.
which LA? LAFC or Galaxy?
I would say Galaxy seems more like the Disney club between those two.
I agree. I was thinking just LAFC, literally the opposite. I was thinking LAFC and Miami.
That does seem like a good one
Just
as well.
The derby of the league, just darlings.
Seattle's like their Vancouver. Just kind of thrown in there as like a third option.
What about like the most boring like matchup?
Oh,
You got
I don't think this this is an off the wall shout that isn't really boring, but I think you'd just see like the most limited amount of shots. It would be Columbus and Houston. Just two teams just passing the ball nonstop, just waiting for an opportunity, and then they lose possession. The other team passes the ball for 10 minutes and then lose possession.
what do you call that one? The Artur Clasico?
Yes, sir. No, but that actually, for a MLS sicko, that'd be a fun game to watch. I think
That would have been a
probably
good final.
That would have been a really cool final. I think probably the most boring one to watch.
Can I read your mind?
Yeah.
Were you going to say Nashville versus Colorado?
I didn't think Nashville. I did think Colorado. I was going to say Colorado, Montreal. That would have been boring. But yeah, Nashville, Colorado would be terrible.
Or Colorado, D.C.?
Oh,
That would be
man.
bad.
Benteke just trying to score on Clint Irwin. And man, yeah, that would be brutal. That would not be a fun. Two teams that just seem lethargic every time they're on the field.
Correct. I'm going to put a poll on X. Let us know what you think the best MLS rivalry is.
Dude, everybody's going to say Cascadia. I'm already telling you. I think it's kind of a consensus.
See, that's what I would think.
Because
but
we have the most history, and it seems like the rivalry between the cities was built on the back of soccer. No, nothing else.
I completely agree, but I think a lot of your fans who are tuning into MLS now, they don't really care. They want to see like a flashy matchup, and they go to like El Tráfico because they've had Ibras, and the fans who just
Are you telling me
don't-
nobody's tuning in to watch Stephen Fry and in between the posts, and you got Frank Boley on the other side trying to go at him?
I think you got too many fans who aren't really MLS fans. They kind of just tune in for some games. They're the people who just like watch Man City highlights on their phone and stuff like that. They don't really care about their real local league, and
Yeah.
they'll just be like, "Oh, I know Carlos Vela and Ibrahimovic or Ricky Puig.
Yeah, there's no flashy names.
I'm gonna watch the
and-
one BR Football put on their story."
Yeah. There's no flashy names in the Seattle-Portland rivalry. Which, did you ever see that Copa 90 video they put out where they sent a guy over from England to he went to a Seattle game originally because he was just reporting on the league, and then everybody told him he had to come back for a game, like a rivalry game, and he came back for that game that was in Portland where we beat them 4-2, and Audi scored a brace, and then
The chainsaw one.
yeah,
I do remember that.
that was really cool because for a while, the Timbers and the league in general got a lot of exposure in England because of that. Because it was not only was it probably the best rivalry game between the two of us, I would say, it was a really, I don't know if it's the best game. In my opinion, it was because I was there and it was freaking awesome.
I think the best one was that 2018 playoff game up in Seattle.
There's been countless good games, and that's what kind of lends itself to Cascadia rivalry being the best. There's so much history.
Tell you what wasn't that 0-0 we took our friend Noah to for the first time for his first ever soccer game.
Oh, man.
Kick TV and Copa 90 had a lot of good MLS kind of niche content back in the day.
Yeah.
Let's
Some
move
fun
on.
stuff. Yeah,
I guess we should talk about LAFC.
LAFC in Houston.
LAFC won. So next up,
You remember earlier in the season when I said I'm tired of LAFC and their dominance, and you were like, "No, dude, it comes in waves. They're not going to be that good." And then they went through like a month, like lull, and then they've just been dominant since then.
I mean, you were right, but I don't think it's been dominant from them, right? They've
They've
won.
been pretty good.
They've been more professional, I'd say. They weren't like steamrolling teams like they've been. They won 2-0 versus Houston. One of their goals was an own goal. They beat Seattle by 1. They beat Vancouver 1-0 in that second leg. They've been good.
When's the last time they lost?
They lost to Portland in August or September or something like that.
I'm going to try and track down their last loss. But, yeah, I don't know. I
think you look at Columbus, and they've been more dominant, quote-unquote, to say.
Yeah, I guess they lost. So they lost in October to RSL, which was their first game after Leagues Cup. They lost 1-0. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's LAFC is LAFC. I have a hard time talking about this club because I have like a kind of a natural just disliking for like the big boy clubs that come in and
Exactly.
get favored, and you know they're allowed to splash cash and do things differently than the rest of the league. The only thing with LAFC is they do sell a lot and they do make a lot of money. So they have a really smart front office. But
what's your take on this? So they beat Houston 2-0, ends Houston's run, obviously, and we'll talk about that. But before the game, like kickoff, there was this shot of their supporters section, and there was just flares everywhere, and they had a tifo, and it was pretty cool looking, honestly. It caused some controversy online because MLS's stadium policy is that no flares are allowed in any game under any circumstances. And there's been countless times where, you know, a supporters group will want to bring like one flare for like a goal or something like that, and they get in trouble from the stadium people. And LAFC had like 15 flares going off at once, and everybody's like, oh, look at supporter culture and like MLS, it's growing. And all these other supporters group people online were like, what the heck? Like, why does MLS like celebrate this with this club? And then like when we tried to do it, they just turned us down.
it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all. I mean,
It's
when you
another
tuned
reason
into the
to-
beginning of that LAFC game, it was just looked like so much smoke in the air.
like California.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't surprise me that they would do the same thing for Miami. You know? And then meanwhile you got Seattle's lighting off flamethrowers in their stadium every time a goal every time like a player just accidentally goes off his back for an own goal and then a flamethrower goes off in his face.
One of my favorite memories going up there was watching a game, and Seattle had it was one of those shots where it's like a ball just whipped in like lightning fast. One of their players got like a touch on it, and it looked like a goal, but it just slammed the back of like the advertising board and hit the back of the net and like rolled up. So it looked like it just went in the back of the net, and then instantly the flamethrowers just whoosh the second the net got hit, and then they just went off after like a millisecond.
That's hilarious.
A misfire.
But I don't know. I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all that they would allow them to do it. I do think it's kind of silly. I think MLS needs to like loosen up in a lot of aspects. Stuff like that, like allowing fan culture to kind of express themselves. Let fans be a little bit more unique and individual. Like, why can't you allow every fan group to do what they want? I understand it's bad for broadcasting when you have just smoke filling up the stadium, or the vuvuzelas going off like it's the 2010 World Cup and you can't hear anything. I don't know. But it doesn't shock me. Like, I hear that and I'm just kind of numb to it.
I think it's stupid, right? If you're going to do it, ban it for them too. If you're not going to do it, cool. Let us all have fun with it, right? Don't be selective. I think that's the rational fan's brain. And then all the LFC talking heads on Twitter are like, look at how much attention, like, look at how everybody hates us in MLS. It's like, yeah, because you guys are annoying.
Yeah.
You
But
throw beer cups at players and light off flares when none of us else here can.
I did see that, dude. Franco Escobar. So we haven't really even talked about this game at all. LAFC wins 2-0, and in like the 70-something minute, 80th minute, Franco Escobar goes to clear a ball that's crossed in, misreads it, scores an own goal, and then you just see him immediately in the broadcast. He like has his head in his hands. He's on the ground, clearly upset, and then you just see somebody chuck a water bottle from the stands at him that just luckily hits like the post and gets tied up in the net. And then
They're so annoying.
and then you see I think it was their center back Sviatchenko just like picks
I saw that.
Picks Escobar up and then just gives him like a really soft kiss on the neck and then like slaps his back and like sends him on his way.
That's a family right there.
That was kind of funny to see.
That sucked. Escobar, former LAFC guy, and
But I mean, this game not quite as exciting as Columbus Cincinnati, but Houston just dominated. I don't want to say they dominated the game because they didn't really create many chances, but I mean they had 70% of possession, so they just dominated the ball, and that kind of plays into what you were saying about LAFC. Kind of they've been more professional. They've been squeaking these games out, and it seems like they've become, under Steve Cherundolo, a team that's a lot more comfortable just playing against the ball.
That's what the commentators were saying, right? It was when Cherundolo came in, he wanted that to be a priority where they have like a backup plan. So if they don't have the ball, they're a lot more comfortable. And it's worked so far in the playoffs.
Seems like it's become their primary, like their plan A is just play against the ball in most of their games.
And yeah, Houston had the ball the whole game, and their midfield is so good out of breaking a press, when pressure's on the ball, but they didn't really create anything. They had the ball the whole time. They didn't have many good chances at all.
Yeah, I mean it's tough when you play against a team that has the dinosaur that is Chiellini in the back line directing them, and I don't know. I mean, LAFC has a solid back line, solid defensively, and then on the other hand, like their goalkeeper just pulls out saves that. I mean, Crepo had that save in the first half that would have given Houston the lead. I don't know if you remember
that ball from Herrera.
Herrera left-footed, kind of like whipped in.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was on Houston that had that volley.
Corey Baird. Probably their best chance of the game, honestly, but
that would have been so funny if he scored that and just did the crab dance in front of the ultras.
Dude, you already know that guy would have had a black eye afterwards because somebody threw a...
Oh, man, that would have been so funny. But I don't know. I mean, I feel bad for Houston. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, we'll talk about Houston. I don't want to talk more about LAFC. Ryan Hollingshead's kind of becoming like an X factor, like in these games. He's scoring playoff goals.
Dude, this was the matchup of two lights out right backs. You got Ryan Hollingshead and then Griffin Dorsey on the other team, who both have been like X factors for their team, like this last kind of stretch of the season. Griffin Dorsey has come up with some huge goals and been really crucial for Houston, and then same thing for Hollingshead.
Love to see it. Houston's dream is over, though. First season for Ben Olsen at the helm, definite success, right? They won silverware this year. They won the U.S. Open Cup. That's more than 26 other MLS teams so far.
I heard, there's people having the argument about who would have had the most successful season out of these four teams if they went on to win. And I mean, on one hand, you had Cincinnati who had won Supporter Shield, and then you have Houston who won Open Cup. So that would have been a really interesting final between those two teams. Would be an interesting third place game as well.
The Orange Team Classico.
But I don't know. I Houston, without a doubt, successful season. Would have been amazing if they did the double and won the cup as well. But where do they go from here? Like, what's the next step? It was their first season with Ben Olsen. Kind of unexpected success. They'll have a bit of a target on their back next year. Everybody's kind of understands that they try and play like a Barcelona-esque, like tiki-taka style.
It's the Ben Olsen way.
Kind of looks like they might be losing some of their midfielders. Ache is going to get a little bit older. What's going to happen with this team next year?
I think Karaski is probably leaving, right? That's been the rumor for a long time.
He's probably gone.
Hector Herrera, probably, maybe he replicates his form, maybe not. He is getting older. I think as long as they replace Karaskia, I think their priority would be getting like a lights-out forward, a forward who can be a consistent goal scorer. Their top goal scorer was Amin Bassi with 10 goals, and 6 of them were pens, right?
That's why they didn't win this game. He didn't get a penalty to score.
But they don't have a player. Corey Baird has been good. He's been serviceable. But picture if Baird was in that Christian Ramirez role as a guy who can come off the bench and bring energy and change a game, and they have like a Cucho level forward who can create something out of nothing, score a nuts goal outside of the box. Like, that'd be a complete X factor in a game for Houston where they have 70% of the possession and only had one real chance in the game.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they have a few different things they need to prioritize. Obviously, if they sell Karaskia, they need to get somebody of equal quality that they can bring in. A striker, I think, is probably important for them. But at the same time, I think they would be fine not using a DP spot for that. I think just with their game model, it seems like it's more important that they have lights out guys to the center of the field. And then if they just kind of get, if they can get 3 different guys that they can throw in there, that'll, it's similar to like when Timbers had like Adi and Urruti, like they just kind of had guys that could fill roles for different games. I think it'd be important for them to find a replacement for Artur. That guy is getting old and slow. He was good this year.
That guy was good. That guy was good this last
Don't
game.
get me wrong. He was good. He's only 27. But, man, does he just seem like he plays like an old man.
I disagree.
And then you have Ache on the other hand who's 30-something. I think you need to bring in somebody that could slot into that midfield and kind of help, kind of like I always compare to the Timbers, but like you need that like next up guy that's going to push them to elevate their level to stay in that lineup. And then you also have somebody that can rotate in there. Because if they were to lose Ache or Artur this season, I think their season would have been over.
I mean, totally, right? But you can say that for a lot of teams' best midfielders. I was going to say Artur. I think he's like the forgotten piece of that midfield. A lot of focus was on Bassi and Karaskia and Herrera, but Artur there was a quote from Ache saying like the addition of Artur this year, just being a sit-at-home like defensive midfielder, allowed Hector Herrera to kind of go out and find the game more. So I don't know. Karaskia, is there anybody in MLS you think who could be serviceable for
what Karaskia does?
For what Karaskia does, yeah. If he goes, or do you think they have to go outside of the league?
I don't think there's anybody they could get from another team. That I think everybody that is on his level, there's no way they're going to sell to Houston a player like that. You know who I think I could see actually doing well in Houston that could maybe fill that role is Asante Moreno.
Don't say that.
I could see it. I could see that happening. That's the only guy I could think off the top of my head that I don't know. I don't think Timbers would let him go though. I was trying to think of somebody that's quality that they could maybe pick up from another team. Who do you got? Anybody in mind?
I mean, not particularly. I'm more thinking about for striker for them because I think that Artur, Herrera, Bassi trio in the middle is solid, and if they have somebody serviceable who's not like a liability on the wing, they probably won't be as the level they were this year, but I think they can medal along and be fine in games. But it's one of those things, since they didn't really have a lights-out striker, they relied on this midfield to overpower them through games. If they're losing probably their best midfielder or second best, wherever you put Herrera, that leaves another hole. I don't know, maybe I think Kwadwo Opoku before he went to Montreal could have made sense in Houston, but I think there's lots of serviceable, attacking
Cade
winger.
Cowell?
No, I'm not a big Cade Cowell fan.
What about Jeremy Ebobisse?
As
Would
a striker?
you take him at this team?
See, for me, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Really?
Because I don't think he's going to move this roster that far forward as opposed to some other gets. Because Ebobisse's not really going to be a striker he's a great finisher, right? But I don't think he's going to be one who can take on a few defenders consistently and, score goals outside of the box consistently.
But I don't think this Houston team needs that because they don't need to play on the break. They don't need to try and play quick. They want the ball. They want the game to be slow.
I agree. But
they just need somebody that could apply that finishing touch inside the box for them.
But like in this game, they barely even had any chances for like Corey Bear except for that one good one. Whereas
Or Jeremy Ebobisse would put that away.
I mean, maybe, right? So
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I think he'd do like well, but I don't think that would be a signing where it'd be like, all right.
because if you want a striker that's going to be good on the break, then you essentially this Houston team has to do what LAFC did and come up with a plan B, where in a game like this they give LAFC the ball and then they try and play and beat them on the break. I don't know. I think almost they'd be better off going without a striker, doing like a full Pep Guardiola. If you just want to dominate the ball and try and create more confusion for the other back line, if you were to pull a striker out of that front line and pull a little bit deeper and have your wingers go high and really spread that back line thin and just have different attacking options running through, I think that would be a bit more dangerous than trying to get an out-and-out striker and try and force a play style that doesn't really complement what they already do.
Yeah, that makes sense, but we'll see. We'll see who they lose.
It's kind of what like a Columbus does. Columbus dominates the ball, but their front three all drift to different areas, and they all drift really far wide. Like Cucho doesn't play like a 9. He never stays in the center of the field. He's drifting out wide constantly.
Right. But picture that Columbus team without like a Cucho, right? Like they don't have to be like a classic number 9, right? But a player of like the quality of Cucho. If a team from Columbus, Ohio can get a player like that, Houston should be able to.
Yeah, I think they could. I don't know. I feel like for them that midfield 3 is far more important. And if I were them, if I'm being completely honest, I do not rate Amin Bassi at all. I would replace that guy.
He's had a good year.
Yeah, taking penalties. I always hate that's something that grinds my gears. When you look at like goal scoring stats and you're like, oh, league leading goal scorer, and it's like half of their goals are penalties, I think it's the stupidest thing ever. It frustrates me because it just seems like padded stats.
Yeah.
No, like if you're looking at passing stats for somebody, and then you're like, you could dive into it and see how many of them were just Ben Zemansky passes, where it was like 5-yard back pass to their center back, and then they got it back and did it right back to him again, and there's like
100% pass accuracy.
He had 99 passes in this game and 100% pass accuracy. Just stupid stat padding. But
congrats, LAFC, making it to back-to-back MLS Cups. They're going to be playing away from home this year. Columbus versus LAFC in the championship.
This Saturday. This is going to be an exciting game. This is going to be fun because I think LAFC is going to have the same approach they did against Houston. They're going to try and play on the break against a Columbus team that makes some mistakes in the back line. They have a leaky defense, but also against a Columbus team that I think is far more lethal in their attack than a Houston team.
Yep. I think that's spot on. Some interesting storylines. You got Diego Rossi and Christian Ramirez for Columbus, both playing their former team. Obviously, Rossi was remembered a lot more for their time in LAFC. Darlington Nagbe going to his 4th MLS Cup. He's won all 3 with
crazy.
3 different teams. Pretty nuts.
Does anybody have a better win percentage in
MLS
MLS Cup? Like playing multiple. There's no chance. I don't think anybody. Like he's won everywhere he goes.
Yeah, 3 different clubs is the insane part to me.
Diego Valeri posted about him today on Instagram and had like a very nice, like heartfelt caption about him. Like talking about when he first came into the league 10 years ago. He was a right winger, like a flashy right winger that somehow got shifted into playing a D mid now in the later years of his career.
You know who put him in the midfield?
Caleb Porter.
That's right.
And that run to MLS Cup like 5 games before the end of the season.
You're welcome, Columbus. Even though
what
he
a
grew up
career,
there and went to college there, and is from there.
What a career for that guy. One of my favorite MLS players of all time. I love Nagbe.
MLS legend, for sure.
I think there's nobody who really dislikes Nagbe. And it reminded me watching him again in the Cincinnati game. He has to be like the most fouled player of all time.
And he never loses the ball. He never loses the ball.
That's the only way you can get the ball off of him. Like that, I started to get kind of frustrated because I think I like Columbus, but I'm just a Nagbe guy. And just seeing him just get chopped down like by Brandon Vasquez from behind every time he got the ball. Dude, my girlfriend was like getting ready because we were going to a birthday party, and I was just sitting in my room watching it, and I was just like cursing under my breath about Brandon Vasquez and just cursing his career and the lack of, and
Just watching a game like 12 states away.
yeah, that I have no tie to other than the fact that I watched this guy for the beginning of his career. But
we got his boot autographed, one of his soccer cleats.
But
right
yeah,
here.
I just remember that in Portland when that happened, and then Caleb Porter, like, I think he got fined for it, but he came out and said that like maybe if Nagbe was a U.S. citizen like Clint Dempsey, he'd get the same calls or something, because he used to get fouled a lot. I mean, he always has everywhere he's gone. But exciting game. Does he win another MLS Cup against LAFC?
Ah, man, it's a tough one. I'm inclining towards Columbus, but I'm not counting out LAFC. I can see it being like a game where Columbus dominates and LAFC is going to be better at punishing them.
I feel like I'm going for Columbus. I think Columbus is going to win. But I just feel like Dennis Bouanga is going to torch that back line, dude. That guy is so lethal on a breakaway. And with the way Columbus plays, they're just going to leave themselves open to so many counterattacks. And that's a scary thing to see.
Score prediction?
Oh, man. I think I'm going to go – I think this is going to be another shootout. I think this is going to be probably one of the most open MLS Cups we've seen in a while. You just wrote down the same exact score prediction I was going to do. I'm going 3-2 Columbus. I saw you type that out as I was like building up to saying that.
I'll change mine.
Yeah, you better.
But if I get it wrong, or if you get it right though, I'm gonna be mad at you.
What are you going with?
I'll go 4-3 Columbus. Same reason you said, but I just want to be different.
Does this game go to extra time?
Oh. Sure. Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be a tight game, and it'll open up that little extra bit in extra time. Total season standings. 82 points for me, 65 for Chase.
Good thing this last one's worth 20 points.
It's worth exactly 18 points, just what Chase needs.
You had an insane stretch of getting the exact score for like you had 1 week where you didn't get a single one wrong.
And it was right after you brought the lead back for me. I think I had like a 20-point lead, and you brought it to like 4 points.
It was really close, and then you had like 3 games in a row that you guessed the exact score correctly, basically. That was rough.
We're going to do a quick game here before we head out. Bit of a shorter pod. Got some duties to attend to after this.
We're taking it back to our roots. Episode 20-something, I feel like we did a Sporkle quiz, which is
it's a fun website.
You got a bunch of different quizzes, and we wanted to go with a little bit of an MLS Cup theme. So I picked one for Jacob. Jacob picked one for me and then proceeded to do the whole quiz himself before we started the podcast. So I don't know. Do you have another one, or should we just do the one that I got?
I have a couple. One of them is not an MLS Cup one, but I think it's a fun one.
Okay. I was going to say, I got one that might be pretty quick, honestly. So I'm gonna start it. I don't know if there's a timer on it, but we got quick pick, winners and losers of MLS Cup. You have to pick all the teams that have both won and lost an MLS Cup, but not the ones that have only won or only lost.
So that puts New England out of the equation because they're 0-5. That's pain. All right. You ready for me?
Who do you got? Oh, it's got a 1-minute timer on it. Jeez.
How many are there? Are you going to give me that or no?
I think 11.
Jeez. There's a league of parity. That's why. All right. Ready for me?
Yep.
All right. Number 1, Portland Timbers.
Portland Timbers. Let me find them on here. That is correct.
Number 2, Seattle Sounders.
That is correct.
Number 3, LA Galaxy.
That is correct.
Number 4, Columbus Crew.
That is correct.
Toronto FC, number 5.
That is correct.
Now it gets dicey.
Yes, 15 seconds apparently. That's all right. I can just restart it.
I
I hate that it put a timer on this.
San Jose?
San Jose. See if I can find them. Well, the timer has gone up. Let me go back to it. Hold up. I'll just pull up the list here.
So I've got Portland, Seattle, Toronto, LA Galaxy, and Columbus so far. I got 5.
Yes. And you said San Jose, right?
Yes.
Incorrect.
Not San Jose.
San Jose has 2 appearances, 2 wins.
Okay. Respect. That's kind of unexpected.
So you got 6 so far.
Portland, Seattle, LA Galaxy, DC, Columbus, and Toronto.
Yep.
There's 5 more, wow, who have won and lost MLS Cup. Chicago Fire? They haven't made more than 1, have they?
Chicago Fire has made 3 MLS Cups. They have won 1 and lost 2. That is correct.
Kind of surprising. So I'm at 4, or I'm at 7, 4 to go.
Yep.
Who else do we have? Philly choked. New York Red Bulls haven't made one except for 1. Orlando, no. Vancouver hasn't made one. Oh, Sporting Kansas City.
SKC is correct. So you got 3 more.
Real Salt Lake, I know.
Correct.
Houston.
Correct.
2 more. Oh, man, that's tough. Who am I missing with this list?
There's 2 that you were missing so far.
Dallas hasn't.
Do you need a hint?
I could take a nice cheeky hint.
I got to think of it. That won't give it away completely.
Oh, no, I already said DC.
Flies back. Just like flew up to my face. This is a team we talk about very often.
It's not Colorado. They've only made 1.
Colorado.
What?
They've made 2 appearances, 1997 and 2010. Only won 1.
I knew they won 1. I didn't know Colorado made 2. Good for Colorado.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's any other ones you've missed. So let's go through your list again.
So we got Portland, Seattle, LA Galaxy, DC, Columbus, Toronto, Chicago Fire, Sporting Kansas City, RSL, Houston, Colorado. That's it.
I think that's all.
That's all.
That's all of them. You didn't do it in the minute timer, so it doesn't count. But
oh, man.
The teams that wouldn't have counted that have made it to MLS Cup: Atlanta United, they've made it once, won it once. New York City, made it once, won it once. LAFC, made it once, made it a second time just now. New England Revolution, made it 5 times, lost all 5. New York Red Bulls, made it once and lost. Dallas made it once and lost. Philly made it once and lost. That is all. Do you have a Sporkle for me lined up?
I got one for you.
All right.
So, can you name the last 5 MLS Cup winning goal scorers? So, I'm counting the penalty kick in a game as
man.
like the scored penalty kick as well.
The last 5.
The last 5. So, going back to last year.
So, last year, I already know that was Ilie Sanchez.
Yep, because you get that commercial every 5 minutes.
Every time I'd watch an Apple TV show.
2021 MLS Cup, NYCFC, also a penalty kick shootout.
What was his name? Shoot. It was one of their defenders, I know.
Yep.
It wasn't Chanot. Shoot, what is that guy's name? Dang it. I know it was one of their center backs. And I don't remember who the other center back was.
He transferred to Girona in La Liga.
What? With Castellanos?
Afterwards, yeah.
Weird. That's really weird. I don't know if I'm going to remember this guy's name.
Also drilled the game-winning PK in 2 rounds earlier to beat New England Revolution. Peru national team.
Man. I don't know if I'm going to remember his name.
Alexander Callens.
Oh, that's right. I knew it was a center. I knew it was their center back, but I just could not remember his name.
Solid MLS center back.
All right, so you got Callens.
2020 MLS Cup, Columbus Crew. Put the beat down on Seattle.
That one's tough. I'm trying to remember. I know Zelarayan scored in that game, but I don't know who else did. Was it Zelarayan?
It was Zelarayan. He had a
Yes.
brace. They won 3-0. He scored first. Derek Etienne Jr. scored shortly after.
What
And
a
then
legend.
Zelarayan added a third. 2019 MLS Cup. Cover your eyes. The Seattle Sounders won 3-1.
Ooh.
And so the game-winning goal would be the second goal, technically.
The second goal in that game wasn't Jordan Morris, was it?
Was not on the score sheet.
I didn't even watch that game. I'm going to be completely honest. I just didn't want to even have to sit through that. I'm trying to think of like the usual suspects that score for Seattle.
I'll give you who it wasn't. So there's 3 people who scored. The goal to make it 3 was Rui Diaz. The other 2 are pretty not who you'd expect.
Was it early in the game they scored their second, or was it pretty late on?
76th minute. So they scored.
Give me Brad Smith.
Not Brad Smith. That's
Dang
a great
it.
guess, though. So they scored in the 57th to break through, 76th to go up 2-0.
I'm guessing it's not a forward then if you're saying that. So I'm going to go with Roldan.
No, dude, that guy doesn't score.
How do you know which one I'm talking about?
Either or. I'm just kidding. Guy's got a boot on him, to be fair.
I'm not sure if I remember. It's probably going to be one of their center backs then.
Nope. So the first goal was Kevin Leardam, the
gross.
defend. The second goal was Victor Rodriguez, the Spanish midfielder. Didn't play
Oh,
there for a
man.
ton of time,
I
but
forgot about that guy.
yeah. And then 2018 MLS Cup, Atlanta United over the Portland Timbers. It was a 2-0 scoreline.
King Joseph, wasn't it?
King Joseph, after poor Jeremy Abobasi got
Just
manhandled.
Manhandled by Jeff Larinowitz. That was so sad.
That was a tough one.
Watched his first real professional year. He's going to receive a ball, and then Jeff Larinowitz just trucks through his back. Referee just doesn't even look twice at it. Plays the ball through, and Joseph Martinez scores. That was sad. That was a sad one. Was that it?
That was it. That was 5 years. We can do one more if you want.
I got another one for you. MLS Cup runners up. Who? This goes all the way back to 1996. It's got a 7-minute timer here, so let's see how many we can get in the time frame. We are going.
Portland Timbers. I should add a couple in there.
I think it's. Oh wait, okay. So wait, we're going. What year do you want to go with? You got to pick the year, and then I can type it in.
2018, 2021.
Wonder if I can just type in Timbers. Yep. 2019, 2021 Timbers. All right. What else you got?
Toronto FC.
For which one?
2016, 2019.
Okay.
Seattle Sounders, 2017, 2020.
All right. Those are all correct.
Columbus Crew, 2015.
Okay.
New York Red Bulls, 2008.
2008. You're going deep cuts. Okay.
2009 LA Galaxy.
LA Galaxy. I cannot type correctly. Galaxy, correct?
Houston Dynamo, 2011 and 12.
2 years in a row against the same team.
Yep.
As well.
Real Salt Lake, 2013.
I typed in Slat Lake. Correct?
New England Revolution 2014, but they'll be on there like 4 more times.
New England. What about 2022?
Philly.
Yep.
Jim, Everybody Hates Us curtain. And what else we got? 2019.
Apparently I can't spell Philadelphia. There we go. 2010, Colorado Rapids won that year.
Dallas. They played.
20 or 2 okay. You've gotten from 2022 down to 2008. We're getting into dicey territory here. 2007 Houston Dynamo won.
Was it against the Revs?
That's a pretty safe guess. Yep. 2006 Houston Dynamo also won.
I want to say the Revs again, but I don't know for sure.
Should I type it in?
I think so.
Yep. The Revs again. 2005 LA Galaxy won.
I think it's the Revs again. I don't want to just be lazy, but I think it's them again.
That is correct. They made 3 in a row and lost all 3. Oh, man. 2004 DC United won.
Chicago.
Nope.
I mean, I know a safe one, but Galaxy.
Nope.
Man.
It's not New England either. I just tried it. We can go to a different year if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do
2003 San Jose won. 2002 LA Galaxy won.
One of those I know was against the Revs. I want to say 02.
Oh, man. This is just us bagging on the Revs. Yep, 02. Galaxy beat the Revs.
So that leaves, you said the Fire lost 2 MLS Cups, so one of them's got to be Fire, I think.
It was 2003. San Jose beat the Chicago Fire.
So do we need 04 still?
We need 04 and then 2001 to 96. Do you remember the first ever MLS Cup?
Galaxy lost.
Galaxy. What about DC United in 1997?
I don't know.
Giving New England a good old try there.
Oh, 97 was Rapids. I know.
I think I was, yeah, you're right. What about 98? The year I was born.
That was Chicago Fire, who won it.
That's correct. Against who?
Not New England.
Not New England.
That leaves me out of options here. I don't know if the Galaxy made another one. I mean, they've won 5, so maybe.
Not the Galaxy.
Not the Colorado Rapids. Not the Crew.
Not the Crew.
Dallas, maybe?
Not Dallas.
Man. San Jose, you said, went 2 for 2.
Yeah.
Did Miami or Tampa Bay make a final? Miami. Oh,
Not
man.
Tampa.
I can't even think of the original Miami team. Miami Fusion.
Miami. Nope.
Jeez.
Another year. 1999 DC United. Nothing?
Nothing. You'd have to guess. I'd have to guess.
I don't see anything on here. I mean, we did pretty good. 22 out of 27. With 2 minutes left. 2000 Kansas City Wizards.
Oh, man, I forgot about Kansas City. Who was that against?
In 2000, they played. Kansas City won.
Oh, they won.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the answers. Well, they probably lost an MLS Cup, too. You want to try that?
Let's see. Kansas City. Not coming up for either of the other ones. 98 or 99.
DC? Maybe DC lost one of those finals?
DC. All right, I just got the answer for 2004. You got another guess?
Who won it?
It was DC that won it.
Oh, well. Chicago Fire?
Nope. It was Kansas City Wizards. 1998 I just got as well. Chicago Fire won.
Against Kansas City?
Against DC United. We have 3 left in 45 seconds. 1999, DC United. Who did they beat?
Galaxy.
That is correct. 2000, Kansas City Wizards. Who did they beat?
Chicago Fire.
That is correct.
One
2001, San Jose Earthquakes. Who did they beat?
Kansas City. For the win.
No, that's not right. Oh, no. 20 seconds.
DC United.
That's not right either.
Galaxy.
They're both Western Conference teams.
Oh, shoot. Was there even conferences back then?
Oh, you're right. It was Galaxy. We had 10 seconds left.
Did we win?
We won it.
We won.
We got all 27. We got 100%. The average score of the person who does this is 62%. So if anybody is out there questioning whether or not we're the right guys to do a podcast, we just guessed every runner-up in 7 minutes.
That's MLS heritage.
That is heritage. Oh, man. Is there anything else we need to go over? We did our score predictions. Feels weird.
I think that wraps it up. That's a short one for us.
It's getting hard to do these episodes with so few
We'll be back next
matches
week
to talk about.
We'll be back next week with a big MLS Cup final, and then off to silly season.
It's going to be a 0-0 game that ends up going to penalties.
Gets rained out. Seattle.
Everybody misses their penalty, and
Seattle.
it goes to sudden death.
Seattle.
Oh, man. Anyways, thank you all for listening. Find us on X. Phil Neville, find us on X. Please leave us a review. Share the podcast. And as always,
Griffin Dorsey.
Keegan Hughes, come on the show.